Shalom, shalom. Call halal Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Bashem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, Graham Milson and Ruel, and salutations to the brethren on the four corners of the earth, pushing word, truth, and sincerity. Now, I just wanted to share some words on the President Trump calling for a space force. With this whole space force business, we all know that this is basically just Esau trying to fight against the Lord when he comes back in his chariots, man. And what Trump is trying to pass off as something new that he's inventing, which this is not something new, man. This is just a revival of the cyberspace command, that was created under the Pentagon in 1985. Now, this is nothing but a farce, to get the so-called American people, American society, to basically get behind Trump, and everything that he's doing with all the controversy that's going on with his presidency. But as of right now, this is also a ploy to go against the Lord, man, and have a chance to fight against the Lord, man. So I'm gonna play this clip real quick from the Oregonian, from WhiteHouse.gov, and hopefully, Lord willing, hop right into the lesson.
Hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a Space Force as the sixth branch of the armed forces. That's a big statement. We are going to have the Air Force and we are going to have the Space Force, separate but equal. It is going to be something so important. General Dunford, if you would carry that assignment out, I would be very greatly honored also. Where's General Dunford? Got it? Let's go get it, General. But that's the importance that we give it. We're going to have the Space Force. 1 year ago, I revived the National Space Council and put exactly the right man in charge, and that's our friend, Mike Pence, who feels very strongly about this. And in December, I signed a historic directive that will return Americans to the moon for the first time since 1972, if you can believe that. Always remembering, it's about that, but it's also about jobs and the economy. This is a great thing we're doing. This time we will do more than plant our flag and leave our footprints. We will establish a long-term presence, expand our economy, and build the foundation for an eventual mission to Mars, which is actually going to happen very quickly.
You heard what he said, man. He said he wants to have an actual mission to go to Mars, man. So on top of that, they're trying to build intergalactic space colonies, man. To try and get away from the Lord, man. As it says in Amos the 9th chapter. In Revelation the 6th chapter, man, where it says, they say to the rocks fall on us, man, that we may be shielded from the Lamb of the Lord. And I do have a couple of articles here. I got an article from the nation.com about the United States Space Command, man, that was created in 1985, like I stated earlier, and in this article, it actually tells you that Esau knows that this is his blessing, man, and he wants to control outer space as a way of getting economic and military advantage, man, over the whole earth, including trying to get an advantage over the Most High. This is from the nation.com, waging war in space. Master of Space, a model of the United States Command, a joint Air Force, Army, and Navy command set up by the Pentagon in 1985, says it all. Master of Space, a model of the United States Space Command, a joint Air Force, Army, and Navy command set up by the Pentagon in 1985, says it all. Our military leaders seek to control outer space and dominate the Earth. By basing weapons in space, corporate America is deeply involved. Says U.S. Space Command, dominating the space dimension of military operations to protect U.S. interests and investment. integrating space forces into warfighting capabilities across the full spectrum of conflict. And one of the movies that that you can equate this to would be something like Ender's Game. You even have Star Trek, you know, Elysium, things of that nature. Says the command's vision for 2020, a report whose colorful cover depicts a laser weapon in space zapping targets on the Earth below. Its goal in the next 2 decades. Now, this was created in 1985, man, and this vision was for the year 2020, man. We're in the year 2018 right now, and so this is no coincidence that Trump is reviving this United States Space Command at this moment, man. You know, in the middle of 2018. Because they do have an agenda that they're pushing, man, that they've been pushing. You know, it's just been under wraps. It says space is the ultimate high ground, says the Air Force Space Command. It says in 1992, the Space Command's Commander-in-Chief, General Joseph Ashey, put it bluntly, it's politically sensitive, but it's going to happen. We're going to fight in space. We're going to fight from space, and we're going to fight into space. That's why the U.S. has development programs in directed energy and hit-to-kill mechanisms, man. And those hit-to-kill mechanisms are for the Most High, man. You hear what he said? He said we're going to fight into space. Why would you have to fight into space, man, if there's nothing out there? Because Esau understands that the Lord and his chariots, man, are waiting for him. It says we'll expand into these two missions: space control and space force application, military jargon for control of Earth from space, because they will become increasingly important. We will engage terrestrial targets someday. Ships, now terrestrial targets, from outer space, meaning from the satellites. Think of the Death Star in Star Wars. When they had that big satellite that was the size of a planet, and it had that gun that was able to zap any planet, from light years away and to blow it up. It says we will engage terrestrial targets someday. Ships, airplanes, land targets from space. We will engage targets in space from space. So this is basically saying that the United States wants to be all powerful, man. If they had this type of capability, they would be all powerful, man. Now, I don't want to read the whole article. If you brothers want to go through and read this whole article, I advise to do so because it's really good information. But I also have a text from a book that I'm reading called Democracy, America's Deadliest Export. This is what the cover looks like here. Now, in this book here, it has the same quotes that was just read, from General Joseph Ashey. He is a real person. He was a real general, And I found a nifty little website called archive.org. Now, on this website, archive.org, you can find a bunch of old books, old news, TV shows, documentaries, things of that nature that are archived. This is a free site. Let's see here. And it's like I lost my point here. Here we go. So this is the quotes that we just read from Joseph Ashey in the article from thenation.com, man. But this is also page 4 of Democracy, America's Deadliest Export. This is page 4. It says, here's how the gentlemen of the Pentagon have sounded in the recent past on the subject of space. We will engage terrestrial targets someday. Ships, airplanes, land targets from space. We're going to fight in space. We're going to fight from space, and we're going to fight into space. General Joseph Ashey, Commander-in-Chief of U.S. Space Command 12. With regard to space dominance, we have it, we like it, and we're going to keep it. Keith R. Hall, Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for State's Director of National Reconnaissance, Office 13. Now, these are the same quotes that we just read in the article, man, that was written in 1999. By who? General Joseph Ashey. So this is something real, man. This isn't a joke. This isn't far-fetched. This is something that has been in the plans, in the woodworks for 2 decades now. Maybe even longer. Let's see. So page 5 here, it says, during the early portion of the 21st century, space power will also evolve into a separate and equal medium of warfare. The emerging synergy of space superiority with land, sea, and air superiority will lead to full spectrum dominance. Development of ballistic missile defense using space systems and planning for precision strikes from space offers a counter to the worldwide proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. So, this whole time you have this arms race that they've been in since the 1970s, man. You know, in the 1980s called the Cold War that they've had with Russia, man. And now we're basically in the Cold War 2.0 with which is an arms race between America and Russia, man, who has the best and most destructive weapons. Now, everyone has nuclear weapons nowadays, man. Now America is finally taking a step to do a one up and to go into outer space and have space weapons, man. You know, which it's in Esau's, is in Esau's power to do. You know, you read the text. It says they want to lead to full spectrum dominance, man. Which that was a blessing given to him from the Most High, man. Back in Genesis 27th chapter, it says space is a region with increasing commercial, civil, international, and military interests and investments. The threat to these vital systems is also increasing. Control of space. Now we said the threat to these vital systems is also increasing. Now, threat to what? What threat to vital systems? These systems haven't even been created yet. So how's there a threat? The threat lies in Russia or some other world superpower gaining the upper hand and gaining this technology first. Control of space is the ability to assure access to space, freedom of operations within the space medium, and an ability to deny others the use of space if required. Now, this is the exact same thing that America's doing with airspace, over other countries. They're denying people restricted access to fly over this certain airspace over that's controlled by this country. You know, now they want to do this in outer space. They want to put a label. They want to put boundaries on outer space, man. Create boundaries that aren't there. United States Space Command Vision for 2020. Page 14. So this is all in the vision for 2020, man. And this might be that is going to be established for 2020. This might be where these plans or this blueprint is set in motion, man. Because right now, like I said earlier, it's 2018, and Donald Trump is just now announcing this so-called Space Force, man, which is nothing but the revival of the U.S. Space Command, created in 1985. But all in all, this is Esau's blessing, man. This is Genesis chapter 27, verse 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. So he'll control the whole earth, right? And of the dew of heaven from above. And that's the air, That's the airplanes, the drones, the F-16 fighter jets. And now he wants to go into outer space, man. Which the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua isn't going to give him outer space. That's a realm that is off limits to Esau, man. Trump's talking about this for the first time since the 1960s. He's going to send a man to the moon. No, he's not. You know what I'm saying? Because man never went to the moon. They can't even get past the Van Allen belt, man. It's already come out that whole Man on the Moon mission or Man on the Moon directive was a Hollywood production, man. Verse 40 says, And by the sword thou shalt live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And that happened in the history, going back to the time of King David. But the whole point was that Esau's blessing was given to him. And that blessing is the sword, the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven above, man. Full spectrum dominance on the whole earth, and he already has that, But like the scriptures say, man, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, and is as hell and death, man. He cannot be satisfied, But ultimately, not only is this to fight against the Most High and to keep the other nations in a state of oppression and at bay, but this is also a ploy to get away from the destruction that's coming to the earth, man. This Revelation 6 and 14. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And that's the earthquakes from the thermonuclear missiles, man. The mushroom clouds as well. and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men. So that's everyone that's in charge, man, of whole nations, you know? And every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. And that's what you have the deep underground military bunkers for, you know? And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So they're ultimately trying to hide from Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Not only fight against them, but buy themselves some time where they can escape. That's why he wants to plant men on the moon and plant men on Mars, man. And that's why they're desperately trying to find life or signs of that can sustain life outside of the realm of planet Earth. It says, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? And that's what they're saying to themselves right now, man. Who shall be able to stand? Because the Lord isn't playing with them when he comes back. They know exactly what's going to happen to them when he comes back, man. Death, misery, woe, and slavery, This is Amos, the 9th chapter, in the 2nd verse. Though they dig into hell, thence shall mine hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven, thence will I bring them down. So they go into those deep military underground bases. The Lord will take the angels and bring them up, man. And it says, though they climb into heaven. So that's your military satellites, your spaceships, expeditions to other planets. Your satellite colonies like Elysium. Your Star Treks, your Star Wars. Though they climb up to heaven, thence will I bring them down. So the Lord is still going to destroy them, man. Wherever they go, the Lord is still going to wage war against them. Because the Lord is going to disappoint them, man. This is Obadiah chapter 1. Let's see. Matter of fact, this wasn't the scripture that I wanted, but I'll read it anyway because it's still a good scripture, man. This is Obadiah 1 and 4. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, which they're trying to do now, man, which they have already done with their satellites, and they're trying to go even further with the space program. Thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. So they're saying it again, man, for the 3rd time. You will not succeed. This is Job chapter 5, verse 12. It says, he disappointed the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. So like I said, man, the Lord is not going to allow Esau to have the space force, to have the space program, to have the space military. Something's going to keep happening and keep getting in the way, man. There's always going to be a monkey wrench thrown in his gears, man. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. So he's going to take them in their own craftiness, man. He might fling them into outer space just so he can, suffocate them. Anything can happen with the Most High, man. You're always in a trick bag with the Most High. And that's one thing Esau does not get, and he does not understand. That the Most High controls everything. They meet with darkness in the daytime, and grope in the noonday as in the night. But he saveth the poor from the sword, from their mouth, and from the hand of the mighty. So the Lord is going to save us from Esau, man. If Esau gets what he wants with this intergalactic space program, man, to wage war in space, this is the end of all life as we know it, man. The scriptures say that time shall be sped up, man, for the elect's sake, because if not, there shall be no flesh left, man. And Esau is the great destroyer, man. He's the destroyer of worlds, said by Robert Oppenheimer, man. He's the destroyer of worlds, man. Said Habakkuk the 2nd chapter, man. Revelation 6th chapter, man. He's the red horse that was given to take peace from the earth, man. But Yahweh Bashim Yahushai says that he saveth the poor from the sword, from their mouth, and from the hand of the mighty, man. So the Lord is going to destroy Esau, man, and deliver Israel at the same time. Like scripture say, man, he disappointeth the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. So Esau is not going to make any headway with the space program. Said Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man. So with that, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakak Kwadash, double honors the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, And salutations to the brethren on the four corners of the earth, pushing the word of truth and its sincerity. Shalom.